Eric, you're muted. Eric, you're muted. Eric, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Am I muted? Son of a gun. Dirt the Dough's calling me out. He goes, he can't hear me. This is like Zoom 2002. All right. 2002, 2020. It's been that kind of a day today. So welcome back to the BFC. You guys know we get our DD from the source here. So I want to give everybody a shout out, the whole community. Thanks for joining me here. Producer Rob, and everyone that's joined me with me tonight. So please stick around after the interview for my thoughts on a couple other stocks that have been requested by you guys. So, but hey, don't forget to smash the like button and hit subscribe because we do this every week. So be a part of this journey. All right, let's get right into this. Our next guest is an up-and-coming investment company that has been turning heads as they have more than 70 strategic investments. And I'm talking about none other than ThreeD Capital, ticker IDKFF. Let's welcome Sheldon Inwentash and Jackson Inwentash. Let's bring him in. Gentlemen, welcome to the BFC. How are we doing?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, listen, I'm going to start with Sheldon, and you guys could just chime in however you want. But this isn't your first rodeo, Sheldon. You have quite the background and resume. Let's talk about the past, and let's lay the foundation here. Tell us about yourself and some of the projects that you've worked on in the past.
Sure. That could take quite some time, but I'll try to compress it all. I've been doing emerging companies now for a long, long time. I'm a CPA by background, but I actually was an analyst, built a couple major oil companies, and then started my first venture fund, and then morphed into a very similar company to ThreeD Capital, which was called Pine Tree Capital at the time. It went from basically, when I took it over, 10 cents to $26. We had many exits, over $1 billion. We were very heavily in those days invested in the resource industry, and ended up having a lot of success. I basically retired. I restarted ThreeD Capital with my son Jackson, who's on this interview, and we basically have built, as you say, approximately 70 companies across a number of fields. Probably most notably focused on AI with a number of our initiatives, cybersecurity. We do have some resource involvement. But we've been basically stealth for 7 years. We've not done a financing for 5 years. We've bought back maybe 10% of our shares. So we've continued to be anti-dilutive, and yet we've continued to build our portfolio, spanning, as I said, many industries, also including biotech and longevity. So I'm happy to address any of them. Based on your interest, your subscribers' interest, I'm here for you.
Yeah, guys, this is for you. Due diligence from the source. Please put your questions in the chat. That's what this is all about. I want to see some questions in there. All right, so I think of your company, and I listened to you guys on a space about maybe a month or so ago, and probably before, maybe a month and a half or so ago, and I was like, all right, well, what do these guys do? And I was trying to wrap my head around it. And it's such a big operation. I mean, you guys have a great business model. And like I said, it took me some time, but I think of your company as investing in the investors on Shark Tank. If you get what I'm saying, it's basically this. There's nothing basic about what you guys are doing, but that's what I think about. It's like, and it says on your website, ThreeD can provide exposure into equity in early seed financing rounds. This provides ThreeD with low entry point and highly favorable risk reward profiles. So my question, one of my many questions is that sort of what this is? We're investing in the investor, correct? But how does this plan transfer to the shareholder? Typically investors, they look at revenues, profit margins, assets, and liabilities, but this is a bit different due to the nature of the plan. So how will this create shareholder value? Let's just say if one IPOs and the investment is worth a substantial amount. Are you looking to issue dividends or purchase IDKFF shares? Like, give us the overall plan here.
Sure, happy to do that. First thing, I think what the attraction is of 3D Capital to the average retail investor, and we do have institutional investors, is that you get access to a very diverse set of companies where the entry point was at the seed and founders level, which normally would not be available to the average investor. And in addition, we actively manage our investments. So we're advisors, we're board members, we play a different role, but we actually help these companies build. And we do many strategic partnerships amongst our companies. So we're extremely value added, and you basically get that diversity, that early stage investment, and then the value add. So it's really something that in many cases the average investor may just never be exposed to, may not have the time or the expertise. Now, in terms of shareholder value, there's a number of things that we believe are going to touch shareholders. First thing, we have a number of new IPOs coming out this year, many in the digital asset arena, which we're also heavily involved in. But we also have two companies that I start off with these because in my career, I've started over 1,000 companies, and I've never, ever used the word $1 trillion because it was never even a term up until, I guess, 5 years ago or so when Apple hit that market cap. Now there's a number of others. And certainly with AI, NVIDIA's was the fastest to get to that mark. So we have two companies that were based on a blockchain-like protocol, which is called TODA. And we believe two killer apps have come out of that. One is in micropayments. For the first time ever now, you'll be able to do transactions that leave a very minute footprint. And what I mean by that is the cost per transaction is fractions of a penny, not 25, 50 cents or $1, where you got to have third-party processing costs, KYC forms, verification, authentication. It's very slow, very expensive, and basically prohibited many transactions. 6 billion people out of 8 billion people on planet Earth cannot afford subscription models. So this is addressing the big part of the world today that wants to consume content. You're in India, you have 5 minutes to play Fortnite or Call of Duty video game. You can't afford the game. You don't want to subscribe. You're not going to subscribe to Activision, and you just want to play it for 5 minutes. Well, that's not a divisible, fractionable method that any company can profitably organize to collect money on that. We now enable that. So this is launching as we speak with Google, CIBC and RBC, and coming more big tech partners in the US. And what's interesting here is because 3D was a co-founder of this company, a financial founder, the way that you settled a microtransaction is by what's called a TODA note. And we have a YouTube channel where you can listen to the founder talk about this. So I'm just going to give the brief version of it. We have in 3D 280 million notes. Those notes, we believe, are going to get redeemed over the next coming years. And we believe that that's going to be cash flow to 3D that we plan on distributing a portion of to shareholders through some type of dividend. The second killer app that we have based on the same protocol is a company called Hypercycle. And Hypercycle is a joint venture partnership between Singularity.net, which is the AI protocol of Ben Goertzel, who's been in the space for 30 years. He was looking for a scalable model to achieve AGI, the ultimate nirvana in AI. And he was building on Cardano, and it was too slow because no blockchain can scale millions and millions of transactions a second. Hypercycle last week tweeted out they can do 26 million transactions a second. This is unheard of, never ever before possible. So what does Hypercycle do? Hypercycle is going to enable the Internet of AI to exist. So think about that. You have the internet. If you had a piece of the company that created the internet, how big that would be. We believe the Internet of AI is going to be bigger, and that the preponderance of transactions are going to be machine to machine and not necessarily individuals to machine. There will be lots, of course, individuals to machine, large language models, create this, create that, but most of the commands are going to be under the hood, and machines are going to be just settling transactions, commands, and so forth, billions and trillions of them. So Hypercycle enables that ecosystem to exist and make all AI smarter, because they're not going to speak to each other, because it's decentralized. Most of the problems with OpenAI and the AI architectures today is that they're centralized and everybody's worried about who's going to get the power because it's centralized. We are decentralized in Hypercycle. And by participating in creating this Internet of AI, participants earn money. And they earn it by holding the token of Hypercycle or software nodes or bigger players through data centers. And ThreeD owns the whole tech stack. Again, this is 7 years of history. So that as this launches in the second half of this year, the returns, we believe, are going to be very substantial. And again, that is going to be cash flow, and we plan on distributing some of that to shareholders. So we have 2 killer apps, 2 what we think are trillion-dollar opportunities, micropayments, the Internet of AI, and as we receive income, we will distribute it. In addition, we have many new IPOs coming out that we believe are going to add substantially to our net asset value per share, of which we trade at a substantial discount. So you're buying this whole portfolio on sale because it's less than half of its values, and you get all the upside on just 2 of the situations I'm speaking to. And I'll just say one last thing, is that I'm the messenger, I'm the entrepreneur, but if you want to listen to the founders and CEOs of some of these companies I'm speaking to, please go to a YouTube channel and listen to them present. And it's fascinating, and you'll listen to it from their words, not just mine.
And guys, check the description of this video. I put their website, their Twitter account, their YouTube. This is transparency at its like maximum capacity. You guys have done like a killer job. And you know what? It's becoming one of my favorite companies to watch and favorite stocks to watch. Jackson, feel free to step in anytime. But I want to go back to what you're saying about I call it the hierarchy of fees. And that's one thing that we got to realize is, you know, when we have these microtransactions, even if they're for $2, there are fees all the way up, and everybody's getting their slice of the pie. And this negates that and gives power to the consumer, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I really think this unlocks is financial flexibility. And so it enables people who right now, you know, like Sheldon said, most of the people in the world can't afford or are unable for one reason or another to enter a subscription. I mean, I know, you know, many use cases where I would personally benefit from it, where I want one thing here, one thing there, but I don't want to necessarily have to lock myself in. So being able to have that flexibility opens up whole new businesses as well that have never previously existed. What this is basically enabling is almost like the arcade model for everything, which is kind of a pay as you go, pay as you need kind of market. And so this really compresses the cost and was really one of the initial promises of the early internet, which was, hey, being able to transact directly peer-to-peer with different people and, you know, flatten that cost. I mean, you saw that with basically flattening the cost of information. This is flattening the cost of financial transactions.
It's remarkable. And you know what? I know for a fact that I would definitely take advantage of this. Especially for people like who have kids, that they say, all right, guess what? You're gonna get like literally 10 minutes worth of this game. And so I'm looking at it from not only just a transactional mindset, but like a gaming mindset or literally anything. Like that's what's crazy about this. You know, and so my question is, I have a little follow-up to that. Would this be something that would be linked to a wallet, or would it be linked to your bank card, for example, or would this be something completely different?
No, so from it's a great question. From the user's perspective, it's very simple, very straightforward. This is not a crypto project. This is dealing with fiat. So for example, for this, TotaQ is partnered with CIBC and RBC, which are two of Canada's largest banks. And so if someone, for example, wanted to do a micropayment and they wanted to do it through some company that's micropayment enabled, which would be very simple for both the customer as well as the user. It would look like basically a digital sticker on their page. You would click the button. You would basically just put in your credit card information, and you could load up for as little as you want. Let's say you load up $5 worth, and you could split that 1,000 different ways at pennies at a time. And in the future, it'll be just directly from your bank account. So we're dealing all with fiat. Dealing directly with banks, everything is completely on board, going through them as kind of the off ramp, on ramp partners there. So very simple from the user and very simple for the merchants as well.
Yeah, I've covered a ton of companies, and I'm telling you guys, and this is just my personal opinion, not financial advice, but it seems like this model could be absolutely massive, and you're tackling into the AI industry. And anybody that thinks that it's going away, it hasn't even gotten started yet. And so just like the internet, was a thought back in the 80s, look what happened. We're consuming it nonstop right now. So AI is going to be triple what that was, quadruple what that is. It's going to be absolutely and it's going to touch every part of our living, our lives. Now, the internet of AI is something that I think, because I've had AI companies on the show, it's something that I think is absolutely mind blowing. Like what the AI is going to be able to do, because this internet of AI isn't even created yet. Once it gets created, it's going to be AI on hyperdrive.
Yeah.
Super exciting.
AI growth is currently 400% a year. We've never in our lifetime seen anything grow. We've seen some industries grow at 20, 30%. Those are robust. It's 400%, and it's not stopping. And as you say, it's going to affect every part of our lives, every company. People are going to become more efficient. It's going to eliminate middle people. It's going to make everybody smarter and more efficient in what we're doing. For example, one of our companies in AI manages smart cities. And what I mean by that is, so today, and this company does it for sewer and water for municipalities. Well, we all know population's expanding, but we also know governments are broke, that they don't really have the money to expand based on population growth. But if they can take their existing resources and make them more efficient through AI, that's hugely accretive and for their ROI, if you will. They don't have to build bigger, industrial complexes. And so this company has been winning basically municipality after municipality, and it's growing exponentially. So that's an example. But we've got many interesting companies that touch AI. That I see you're wearing a headset. Well, we have a company that came out of the University of Michigan 14 years ago, but now principally a lot of it's related to Harvard. A company that is similar to Elon Musk's Neuralink, except non-invasive. So we've invested in a company called Neurable, and you can listen to Ramses, is the founder. He's interviewed on our YouTube channel, and what it does is the headset. We provide the software engine to that headset, so the headset can still do everything that you're doing. You're listening. You could listen to music. You're communicating. But we embed, let's call it a chip-like system, whereby the headset reads your electromagnetic waves in your brain. And by you, for example, thinking that you want to now not speak to me, but speak to somebody else who gets inserted, you just have to think, and it actually will get executed. So you can change the music you're listening to. You can change your PowerPoint. I know this sounds very futuristic, but it's here today. This company is commercializing as we speak. Jackson and I just ordered headphone sets because it's launching in the next 60 days. But one of the first key applications is going to, I'll say, affect an element of cognitive decline. And what I mean by that is we all talk. And as we talk, we think of what we're talking about, but then we sometimes go on tangents. And sometimes those tangents are relevant. But in many cases in our life, in your work, in whatever you do, you lose focus. The headset is going to command and say, guess what, Sheldon? Get back into focus. You're straying from your thoughts. So we believe this is going to be a huge business. We've been told by many of the headphone manufacturers that they want to embed this software into all their headphones because people are going to want to know and execute and think of the paraplegic communities and those who are suffering disabilities that only have their brain but they can't work the rest of their body. They can now interact in a real-time way. So that's another company that, it may not be the first thing people think about with AI, but it is a great application.
The first time I heard you start talking about this a month and a half ago, Stephen Hawking came to mind. I'm like, imagine if he had that ability. And I mean, and you talk about being organized and getting back on track. Don't tell my wife that because she'll have me get one immediately because I always lose focus. That's just the truth. But I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, like it's remarkable what this is able to do and how many lives this could change and how many lives it could help. But that did come to mind. I'm like, just imagine. I mean, we're at the cusp of medical breakthroughs, and the fact that this is non-invasive is even a bigger bonus. You know what I mean? So. That's amazing. Jackson, do you want to share thoughts on that? I actually wanted, after you give your thoughts on that, guys, keep putting your questions there. We're going to get to you in a second. And Jackson, take it.
Yeah, sure. I completely agree. Everything, Sheldon said, especially the paraplegics. I mean, that's actually the factor that his father was in a terrible car accident. And that kind of what motivated him to go down this line and work, a Harvard alum guy, very brilliant. And, so there's going to be so many applications for that. Also around safety. I mean, with this focus application, one of the first great applications, think about drivers or truck drivers who have to drive 12, 15 hours. They don't even realize when they start losing focus or potentially dozing off. And so just having that slight alert could end up, saving lives. So there's the extremes of life savings and, doing things and making changes to people's lives. But there's also, the very simple kind of first world problems where, when you're losing focus, think about you're listening to a podcast or an audiobook and you lose focus and it pauses automatically for you. So then you don't have to click the back button. Just things like that, I think are just great killer applications that nobody else can offer, but extremely convenient, extremely useful, and that really is one of the great applications of and promises of AI in this company.
Yeah, and if you think of the military, and you're flying an F-16, you can actually be in tune with the machine. So where you have to have reaction times of splits of a second. So we think the potential here is almost unlimited. So.
It is. I mean, look, think about, and I'm an educator of 16 years. Think about how it could impact education. As somebody who I have students that have ADHD or they have short attention spans. Heck, I do. I have short attention span, very short attention span. But I mean, to have a product like that, a revolutionary product that's a disruptive product, that could aid in educational people that have educational disabilities or learning disabilities. And could really be a key driver to help them succeed in their education. So there is literally no industry untouched that I think that, you know what I'm saying? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Before we get to the questions, great questions in there, by the way, I want to go through and I want to talk. Now, you guys have 5 basic divisions that you're investing in. You got blockchain, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, biotech, and junior resources. So if we could go down the line, I want to go down the line. So just to give some structure to this interview and just so that way people could understand. All right. Let's start with the blockchain. What's the most significant investment and collaboration efforts that you're doing? Let's go right down the line. Let's start with blockchain.
Jack, you want to address an
Sure.
idea or two?
Yeah. So I mean, we originally got into blockchain. We really liked the grand concepts of smart contracts, immutability. Really dealing with the supply chain. But we also saw a lot of the shortcomings with it. And blockchain is one of our verticals. We're very bullish on digital assets. And we really are a believer of applications on the blockchain, not necessarily just cryptocurrency or speculation. So we've got involved in a few different companies in this space, but one that we've kind of lumped in there, which probably should be his own section, is the stuff around micropayments and the AI to AI, because what they really deal with is the limitations of blockchain, which have to do with that scalability. And most of these blockchains that they have to deal with these issues of either scalability or decentralization, and so they seem to not be able to get past this issue of how do you get really the best of both worlds, and these companies have really solved that issue where you still have all of the security immutability aspects of the blockchain while also being low cost and infinitely scalable. So that should be in its own section, but we also are involved in a few variety of different blockchain projects. A couple going public now are listing. One is an alternative, say YouTube or Web3 space, where content creators can be paid directly as opposed to having to go through middlemen like Alphabet, where they're taking 30% of the profits. And it might take them 60 days to get the revenue. As content creators, I'm sure you guys can relate. But so we're involved in a project that tries to disintermediate that. We're involved in another project that has a large established exchange for traditional business, like futures, commodities, and so forth, out of the UAE, and they're launching a crypto exchange as well, but going to be all regulated. So unlike Binance, which obviously had its issues and around regulation and money laundering, all this stuff, this is going to be completely regulated, but we believe it could be like the Binance, the regulated version of Binance. And so we're pretty excited for that to be launching in the next 30 or 60 days as well. And so we have a pretty good portfolio of digital assets that we're pretty excited about.
Right on. All right, next in line, artificial intelligence. You guys talked a little bit about hypercycle, the internet of AI. Talk to us a little bit about TOTA-Q, and why that's so significant.
Okay, it's basically going to be extremely disruptive. So if we talked about user consumption. Let's say you want to play a video game, but you look at companies like Netflix, right? So everybody is subscribing, and like I say, most people in the world cannot afford that subscription. But on the other hand, Netflix has a massive amount of content that's on what you call the long tail, where the hot shows of the moment are big in demand and everybody's, but then what happens is that wanes because everybody watches the latest movie or the latest series. But there's a huge amount of content that, I joke about the movie Easy Rider from 1968, and someone wants to rent that movie, but they can't afford Netflix. And now, not only can they say buy that or rent that movie for 25 cents, but Netflix now has billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of content that they can now start monetizing that they couldn't before. So this is going to change both let's call it the consumer side, that's going to decide, well, I just want to pay for what I use. I don't want to, I'm going to go on a toll highway. I just pay on when I'm on the toll highway. I don't have to pay for the rights to go there every month. And so also the vendor side is going to get returns on parts of the marketplace that they never could before. Also the music industry, many artists can't commercialize because they can't charge 2 cents every time someone listens to their music. If you look at the three, Taylor Swift, Drake, and The Weeknd, they suck 95% of the oxygen out of the room. And many of these artists, they can't break through and get any revenue. And now they're going to be able to do that. So we call that the creator economy, where a lot of people that really cannot there's a barrier to entry for them to get revenue. This is going to change. So we believe TotaQ, which is the micropayments platform, is going to be massively disruptive across many, many verticals. And we're extremely excited about that. And we're getting buy-in everywhere. Very few people go, oh, I don't want to do that, because it's a win-win, because there is no limit to the number of transactions that could be done at a time. And second is, the cost per transaction is fractions of a penny. So the barrier to entry, where it costs you a lot of money just to process that transaction, is and that's why Google is so excited partnering with us, and that's why these Canadian banks are so excited. So it's launching also as we speak.
You guys heard that? Google partnering with IDKFF. Wrap your head around it, and they're just getting started. All right. He said that. Google. All right. And I'll tell you right now, and this is the truth. Have you ever wanted to watch a show, guys, and you subscribe to, like, let's say HBO Go or Hulu just to watch the show, and then you unsubscribe and it's a whole thing? I would be so happy. I know a lot of you guys would be happy being able to, hey, there's a really good hit series out. I just want that series. That's all I want. I don't want the subscription, because then you got to cancel. And then then you're talking about you waste time. So you're saving time. You're saving money too. Nobody wants to spend 15 minutes on the phone canceling a membership. And then, there's a new show came out 3 months later. Oh, got to call and do it again. And it's like, it really alleviates a lot of financial stress and time.
I know many people that don't even know they're paying for some of these services because they just get buried, but they all add up. And again, it's going to bring in a new consumer, and it's going to help the vendors. So it's a win-win. We're not cannibalizing anybody's market. We're just enabling new consumers to enter the marketplace.
Unbelievable. It's great stuff, guys. We are in the floor right here, in my opinion. Let's talk about the Internet of Things.
But maybe just one more company on the AI side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because one of the things we like to do is connect companies in our portfolio with other companies we think where there could be strategic partnerships. And so, we've connected TotaQ with another company called AIML Innovations, and they're another AI company in our portfolio, and that work out of our office. And they are going to be probably the first neural net approved for blood pressure as a wearable. So that can be a watch, that can be a ring, that can be so forth. And so there's no FDA approved wearable for blood pressure, even though, a billion people on the planet have it. It's most probably prevalent medical condition there is on the planet, and yet no one has that yet, and we have the potential to be the first to have that, and following on with many other neural nets as well. But where this could we thought there was an interesting connection, and now that they're working towards is, well, imagine every time you want to get your blood pressure monitored, which you can do as many times as you want, you pay a penny or 5 cents or 10 cents, as opposed to having to lock in once again for a subscription. This is kind of another way that it democratizes financial access, in this case for a medical application and personalized medicine for yourself.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about partnerships, and when you have that technology, look at Fitbit, look at Apple Watch. They can't do it. They haven't developed it yet, or maybe they're working on it. They haven't. Like we don't have it. I have a Fitbit. I have one of the newer versions. Can't do it. So that sounds like a slam dunk in my opinion. Because that's the thing. You could do heart rate. You could do walking. You could do miles. Blood pressure is huge because it's such an indicator for so many other medical conditions. I mean, it could literally it could give you a trigger for a heart attack.
Yeah.
Or passing out, or it's crazy.
We believe we're going to be able to, we're striving to predict a potential onset of a heart attack.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's all the work we're doing. And again, it ties into micropayments because people don't want to, even though it might help you, people just don't want subscriptions. But if you paid a penny every time and you did it 10 times a day, that's 10 cents. But you know what? You don't mind because you're getting a result. And this now enables it. So we've created these partnerships so these companies can scale quicker because they're partnering. And so time to market issues are reduced, and your costs, because not everybody has to develop other parts of the ecosystem of the supply chain. So it's a win-win, and everything's the race, times your enemy.
Yeah, you guys are really creating some synergies with the companies that you're working with, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, we could finish up with Internet of Things, biotech, junior resources. Share what you can about those industries, or those divisions, I'm sorry.
Well, I think we've talked about the internet.
Yeah.
I'll talk resources, but Jackson's particular expertise is in the biotech arena, and we're doing a lot in the area of longevity. So, Jack, perhaps you could give the a snippets version of what we're doing.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, this is a very interesting time in the area of longevity research and aging research and biotechnology, where, historically it's been a lot of promise or hype, just as kind of as old as time. But now there's been real progress made, I'd say, over the last 5 to 10 years, where I think we're going to start seeing the first real applications over the coming years of things that actually extend not just lifespan, but health span. So, while lifespan's been increasing, people are spending more of that time sick, especially in the US, where health span has really stagnated. And so there's been a lot of great innovation around that. And so we've gotten involved in a few companies all out of California, where, it's kind of the bedrock or the foundation of a lot of the science is taking place, technology that's been licensed out of Stanford and so forth. And, we're looking at technologies where very, very disruptive, turning back the age of cells, reprogramming them to a younger state. Most people have heard of CRISPR, which is being able to edit your genome. And, some of the first companies that came out of that and went public, reached $10 billion market caps. So what we're focused on is not on the genome, but on something called the epigenome, which is actually what determines which genes are turned on and off.
Oh, wow.
You can think of the epigenome as the software and the genome as the hardware. And so, and many people, and me included, kind of subscribe to the belief, and there's a lot of data supported, that aging is under epigenetic control, not genetic. Your genes actually probably account for only 10, maybe 20% of aging. And so the fact that these epigenetic or software is modifiable, you can show right now in cells, but going into, and now actually as well into tissues, that you can actually reverse the age of these cells, according to all these different hallmarks of aging that many people may or may not be familiar with. And so one of our companies, called ThreeD, is kind of a leader in this forefront in what's called epigenetic reprogramming. In fact, there was a company a couple years ago backed by Jeff Bezos and others that it was the most well-funded startup ever. They basically raised $3 billion to go after this idea, and we've been working on this for 5 years. It's probably going to be the first company in this space to reach human trials. They just had an FDA meeting, and so we think this could be as big, if not bigger, than the CRISPR technology. And so that's one company, Light Technologies, licensed out of Stanford, top people in the field. And another one, which also has to do with rejuvenating tissue, which is a bit under stealth, so we can't talk too much about it. But they have the longest living rat of its species that was achieved doing a lifespan experiment with this intervention, which basically was figuring out what are the positive aspects of young blood. So they take young blood from an animal, fractionate it, pull out the beneficial effects, and I re-inject that into older rats, and you see that they got rejuvenated from grip strength to how they looked, to 30 different biomarkers, as well as biological clocks, which tell you basically on average how long people are going to live, which are extremely all got rejuvenated. So these are really big ideas, but we think the technology is there now, and we're excited to see where this leads over the pretty near term here now.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see. I know obviously we can't get them now. I cannot wait to see those studies when they come out, because that's some crazy stuff that you're talking right there. Like that's life changing. Like that is crazy stuff.
Yeah.
You guys are involved in so much. It's sort of like it's like head spinning. It really is. By the way, when I'm looking down, I'm literally taking notes because there's so much to cover. So I don't want you to think I'm being rude. I'm like literally taking notes because, guys, I hope you're taking notes because they're covering a lot. Let's finish up with resources, and then we're going to get right to the chat. How about that?
Yeah, I'll just address that. We're probably 20% exposed to resources. something I've done in my past. And we're big believers in the depreciation of conventional fiat currencies, which is why we are also involved in digital currencies. But so we're quite heavily involved in gold, and we believe we're going to add a real hedge to a lot of other investments because we're such strong believers. And we also have a major project, and most of it what we're doing is actually in the country of Botswana in Africa, and one of them is going to be strategic minerals for the U.S. critical mineral industry for U.S. military and EVs, and that's in the area of nickel, copper, cobalt, a mine that we're putting back into production, or we're one of the largest shareholders of. That's going to happen, and so we believe this is going to be a multi-billion-dollar company. And again, we were involved in putting it together. We've been involved in it for 5 years, and now we believe, again, we've been stealth talking about our company for 7 years, and all these things that we're talking about now are commercializing this year. So we're not arm waving and saying, "Whoa, we're developing the next great mousetrap, and it's going to be," no. Everything's been developed. It's now commercializing, revenue, going public, execution, not promises. And that's why we're actually starting these conversations. We've only started in the last 60 days.
Yep, and that's one thing that I realized, following you guys, you're doing it. This isn't like, to be continued or soon, as we often hear. You guys are crushing it. And I want to get right to this chat. We have a ton of questions here, so let's just get right to it. Jess in LA. Hey, Jess, good to have you on the show. Given that many holdings portfolio companies, how do you actively monitor so many holdings?
I could address that. We stay connected with everything, and we have very good information flows. Not every project is a day-to-day interaction with. So, for example, I've raised over $30 billion for my companies in the last 20 years. So we know how to help them raise capital. So when they're raising capital, we know who to point them to, and in many cases, we're the lead investor. In other companies, we just make the introductions like we did with TotaQ and AIML. These companies are actually in our office. We run like an accelerator. So we have a half a dozen of these companies actually work out of our premises. So we're not the active day-to-day management of any of them, but we're advisors, consultants, in the sense that they bring us in the loop when there's things to do and talk about. So we've had no problems on bandwidth, and we've been able to certainly monitor, but also be value added.
Right on. Anthony DeVideo. Anthony, how you doing? How many people do you employ?
Well, we actually run a very, very lean operation. So in total, we are probably 6. And what we do is, where we need third party or external due diligence, we have a vast network of people that can just give us views and look at things. So we don't believe in big overheads. And when you talked a bit about the fees at the beginning, there's no 2 and 20 and all the stuff off the top. We basically just run it as a business. And what people like about ThreeD is that it's like a public family office. So our interests are aligned with shareholders. Our objective here is that the shares move up as much as possible. And the more you take away from the capital of the company via overhead, you're eating your young. So we try to keep our costs extremely minimal, and let the profits be used to either buy back shares, which are accretive for shareholders, pay dividends, or make new investments.
All right. Barry the Great. How's it going, Barry? You had 6 million of digital assets last quarter. Is any of that Bitcoin? If so, what percentage of it is Bitcoin?
We do hold some, but let's call it not material when we look at the top line. We have many other digital assets that that we hold, and we're extremely optimistic. I mean, Bitcoin is the bellwether. We are very, very bullish on Bitcoin, but it's not, we don't consider ourselves a Bitcoin fund.
Okay, good. T. Rick, greetings and blessings to all here. Greetings and blessings to you. Could CEO Sheldon please touch on the node devices as income generators?
I'll let Jackson handle this answer.
Sure.
We're talking here the hypercycle nodes,
Yeah.
which is what I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, so hypercycle has a lot of unique aspects to it. I mean, Sheldon alluded to a bit on the kind of front end of, AIs being able to communicate with other AIs. So you could have a large language model speaking to a different type of AI, and they end up being kind of almost like synapses in the brain. But from the consumer or other angle of this, which is extremely interesting, is it basically enables anybody and democratizes access to those who want to benefit in this intranet of AI, this compute. I mean, it's almost like being part of a data center. In order for the hypercycle to run, you need mainly three components. You need hardware, obviously. You need the token, as well as you need what are nodes. And so nodes you can think of as software containers where AI runs within it. But as someone who and these nodes enable basically this network, this AIs to communicate with other AIs and get revenue from these AIs doing work. So if an AI does a call for a certain amount of information, that other AI has to transmit that information, get paid, and you're facilitating that by owning the node. So you get basically a percentage of that. So similar to how people think about Bitcoin and proof of work, and you're securing the system by providing your nodes and enabling these transactions, you're able to get a percentage of revenue from those transactions. And these AI companies are very interested in this because A, it saves them a lot of money, and B, it provides them with a new revenue stream that they would have never previously had. So it's a win-win for all.
Right on. Jess and has another question. How often do you report changes to that? Oh my God. How often do you report changes to NAV?
So we basically report our NAV based on the closing value of the previous month, and we do it approximately between 5 and 10 days in the subsequent month. So we do that monthly.
All right. Excellent. The video has another question. How do you plan to distribute income to shareholders? Recurring dividends or one time? Now, you did talk about this a little bit earlier, so could you just recap that briefly?
Sure. First thing, buying back our own shares is in a way returning capital to shareholders because it results in less shares outstanding and more value per share. Plus, it forms a point of liquidity for those that perhaps want to sell their shares. But we believe that it's going to be three components. It's going to be increases in our NAV and our growth rate, and we believe that we're going to be probably doing some form of distribution, either in cash or possibly even in shares. I mean, these are things that we are forming our policies about, talking to the board, that as they begin, which we believe is later on this year, we're going to start instituting a policy around this so that shareholders feel that they're getting touched in many different ways.
Right on. That's excellent. Let's get to our next question. Dirt to Dough. How does the bank not steal this method from them? How is it protected for the shareholder? So I assume he's talking about the micropayments. I think Dirt to Dough, if I'm correct, I think that's micropayments.
Yeah, I believe he's probably thinking about the ToeDQ.
ToeDQ.
So there are a lot of tech layers to this. We've been involved with this company, I think, 7 years, and they've been continuously building up the tech. So not all of that tech and data is shared with the banks. So there's lots of know-how. There's a lot of IP protection around that. And the banks are already working with us. I think they've kind of got to the point where they realize it's better to work than to try and compete, because it would, it's not just a matter of throwing money and figuring it out. There's a lot of deep tech and different expertise that's required to put this all together. And so for them, I think they've looked at it, and the reason they partnered with it is they see it is much more beneficial to partner with us than to try and compete.
And another thing is that the bank's biggest problem today, and we hear this from all the banks, is fraud. And they believe that the TOTA-Q system and TOTA notes and so forth, and their containerization is going to reduce fraud substantially. So they are actually very keen on instituting our technology into their ecosystem.
Right on. He has a follow-up question as well. Second question: has Netflix said they would use the service, or the music industry said they are going to participate?
I can't really comment about individual partners because we're not allowed to without their previous knowledge or their previous approval, I should say. But let's just say that all the ecosystem of everything that we're targeting for, whether it be music, video, gaming, and etc., they're all signing on as partners to our ecosystem, and they're going to be putting it on their website. We have a thing called Tap. It's very simple. You tap on what you want, how much, and it happens instantaneously. And so it's extremely transparent as sort of, let's call it a payments rail, but it's also very secure. And like I say, it's fractionalized now through low cost. So we're finding that there's almost universal endorsement to becoming a partner in this whole micropayments platform.
Okay, excellent. I have another question from T-Rick. Hopefully it is possible to see a list of companies in IDKFF's portfolio to personally DD after this rad forum ends. So where can we find that list of the companies that you guys are in? But do you have like a list and maybe broken down by industry?
So this is going to have to be done in components. So first thing, we have financial disclosure requirements. And those requirements have to do with which companies say we're insiders of, we own a certain percentage of. So our auditors make us disclose those. So some of them are disclosed in our financial statements and our MD&A. We also put out press releases. So we talk about them. And we also, in our YouTube channel, are now talking about companies that previously we did not disclose, because for one reason or the other, they might not have met the bar for disclosure, because we do not disclose everything. We just disclose material investments. And then what happens is we're involved in something that was a seed investment that becomes material, then it pops up into the disclosure. So what I would suggest is to look through our financials, look through our press releases, and then look at our YouTube channel. And that is where I think the engine of information will come from. And every week to 2 weeks, we add another company. So that's a good start.
Well, one thing I'll also add is we're very active on social media, specifically Twitter and LinkedIn.
Right.
And post a lot there. So it's a great way to keep up to date on things that we find interesting or are involved in.
Yeah. So when I post things, they're pretty relevant in some form or fashion. But sometimes I cannot connect the dots for disclosure purposes.
Yeah, that's understandable. A couple other comments. Do these companies that collect money, and he's going back to what we were talking about prior, or or does this money on the click come directly to your company?
No, this is basically TOTA-Q is the company, and they're the ones that are custodians of this whole service and so forth. But what we do own are TOTA notes, and every time that you do a transaction, you need a TOTA note, and they get redeemed, and we own a percentage of those TOTA notes. So yes, we get paid directly.
Got it. T-Rick, I got to look up this Tap app ASAP. Could you show us what the Tap button looks like?
I don't know if there is if it's on our YouTube, but there are definitely videos on maybe TOTA-Q's website that goes through the demo of that whole application. So the information is either, if it's not on YouTube channel, then it'll probably be on their website where you can see the CEO running through a demo of that.
If you guys come across that, just send it to me and I will push it out to my people so that way they could check that out.
I'll send that to you.
Absolutely, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it is out there.
That's great. Guys, there is so much information with this company. And I think one of the coolest things that you guys really have took initiative on is interviewing your investments, interviewing the companies that you're invested in. It's sort of like what we do here. Like, we're all invested in a lot of these companies that we have on the show. And you guys are really, that shows complete transparency to the shareholder. Like, hey, this is where we have money. This is where we have an interest for you, for the shareholders. So as you guys are investing to try and create long-term growth and go on this path of dividends, you're interviewing the people that you're investing in and sharing that information. I did watch the Singularity interview. It was very fascinating stuff. These people are smart. They are consumed with the tech world and they are expanding upon it. And like everything you guys talked about is just really mind-blowing. It's way bigger than I thought it was 2 months ago. And so it's been a shocker. So congratulations to all you guys, seriously, on the path so far.
Yeah, no, listen, we appreciate it. And yes, we want to be extremely transparent, which goes both ways sometimes. But also with all these interviews, we plan on updating those interviews as major milestones are hit. And we expect in the coming months, many, many new milestones. And we think that they'll be significant.
I have a couple questions left. If you had to pick one of these investments, I know this is like, and you guys thinking like I could probably pick 4 or 5. One investment that like, boom, this is the one. Which one would you pick today? I'll give each of you a chance to answer this. Jackson, why don't you go first?
We have a favorite line of "We love all of our children." Here, but I think one of the ones that we're definitely spending more of our time on, our focus on, is definitely this ThreeD, mainly because they are now going into the phase of commercialization, and the opportunity is quite unlike anything we've ever seen. And so I think that's a very exciting one. I also think Hypercycle, which is based off the same underlying technology, is also just as big of an opportunity. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they're both based off of the same technology, which is really the reason why I think we're very excited. Is it's not just a first mover advantage, it's also this is such a unique technology that solves so many problems that there just are no other competitors really in this space.
Sheldon, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to echo Jackson, because if he had said ThreeD, I would have said Hypercycle. If he had said Hypercycle, I would have said ThreeD. And it's no thing of chance that they're both major killer app opportunities built on the same protocol, which every blockchain company has tried to do, and that is scalability. Everybody's tried to do 10,000 transactions, 20,000 transactions, 1,000 a second. But when you have a ledger-based system where you need consensus every time something's done, it takes time and it costs money. So this is the breakthrough of the brilliance of ThreeD, the protocol. And as a result of that, the micropayments is obviously something I think people understand quite well, because we all make payments, and ThreeD, I mean. And Hypercycle, the Internet of AI, is a bit more nebulous in its concept, but we believe that it's going to involve everybody. In fact, you can be an individual and buy a hyper appliance box, and basically, as people mine Bitcoin, you can mine compute power. And the biggest headwind to the AI growth in the industry is compute power. And Hypercycle helps to alleviate that and reduce the cost. So that is a holy grail on its own, but less sort of concrete today versus ThreeD. But they're both converging to commerciality. So they're, like I say, I never use the term $1 trillion, but Google has said it, and I can't tell you who else has said it on the Hypercycle side, but you'd respect the company if you heard the name. Wow. So that gives us a lot of confidence.
We talked about earlier about the 400% increase CGRA on it's it's remarkable, because we haven't seen anything like that.
No. And without stopping.
I'm just I'm with AI, I'm just like blown away by it. And so yeah, we've covered companies where it's like 11% or 20%. You know, 20%, you're like, oh wow, that's great. 20% is great, but it's like you're talking 400%. Like this industry is not going anywhere, and it's in its infancy, and you guys are on the cusp of doing it. It's mind blowing. I'm excited for you guys. I'm like at a loss for words because you know you have it here, and quite frankly, I think it's at the bottom right now. Just saying, guys. Just my personal opinion. This is not financial advice. We ran that disclaimer, just so you know. Dirt did have one more question I was going to give him. Do you feel any companies would look to buy out today? And I'm sorry. And would that take you out of the circle? I'm not sure exactly.
Is he asking
if one of those sub companies maybe would be bought out?
Yeah, I think they're all in play at some point in time. That you know, there could be an exit. We don't count on that. You know, sometimes you never know when that will happen. We have a cybersecurity company that just participated in a $220 million contract for Canadian fighter jets, and they were the cybersecurity company of choice. And again, using AI in cybersecurity, they're a private company. Some people have asked us when they're going public, and I basically said I think they're going to get bought out. But every company is different, so it's always a possibility. You never know. It's happened before many times in our portfolio, but we just have our head down to build these things, not to sort of count on exits like that because they're few and far between.
Right on. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been great.
Yeah, no, it's great talking to your audience, and we're happy to keep in touch. And again, you follow all our verticals of knowledge, and I think you can put a pretty good model together. And then we're happy to answer questions as they come up in real time.
Yeah, and I'd love to do a follow up with you guys and some of the top executives of the companies that you've invested in. It would be great to do a whole roundtable. So maybe we could set that up in the next couple weeks to a month to get everybody on here and to get the schedules going, because I think there would be so much knowledge coming out of that podcast that, I mean, I think it'd be great for the community and the stock community, the OTC community, and the investor community.
Agreed.
All right, guys. Thank you very, very much. All right, get these guys out of here, Rob. Get them out of here. Get them out of here. That was awesome. What a company. And I am sort of at a loss for words when I learn about IDKFF. Like, I'm just like, all right, what do they do? That was always my question months ago. What do they do? And so he started digging, started listening to their spaces, listening to their interviews. And I love the fact that we're investing in the investor. And so it's like, I don't know, like I think of like investing in Shark Tank, in investing in the people, the investors on Shark Tank, I guess. All right, so let's get to some other stuff. All right, how are you guys doing? How is the crowd tonight? It was a long day. I was up till about 3 a.m. Because I had a house full of kids that decided to have a sleepover, and it was absolutely rowdy. Yes, and I hope they hear me say that. Early bed night tonight. Very tired today. It's been a long day, but getting a lot done. We're getting a lot done. A couple stocks I wanted to talk about. I don't know. Tell me what's on your mind, guys. Blow up the chat. Ah, yes. Yes. Hey, don't forget to check out the merch store. Seriously. It's awesome. Why don't you throw that link in there, Rob? Shout out to Rob, by the way. Let's get that merch store link in. All right. Let's get to it. Let's wrap up the show with a couple updates. What do we talk about first? Oh, yeah. Happy Cinco de Mayo. How about that? Duh. What am I doing here? Oh, good Lord. All right, so IGPK, I know Dirt the Doe is talking about IGPK. Well, you know what? Hey, we'll see if they have access and they drop filings. I think this week could be a very, very good week. So that's exciting. There are 3 particular stocks I wanted to talk about. Well, like 5, I guess you could say. I want to talk NUMD. I want to talk DRCR, which was requested. We're just going to go through their latest PR. And we're going to talk ILS, SAML, and QIND. We're going to go through their latest PR as well. Paul McKinney Art, pay me some. Let me look at this. BLEG. I've been in contact with the CEO. They've been making a lot of headway. They're doing great things there. I've tried their products. They're doing good things. They're going to come on the show. They're going to give us an update. I told the CEO, I'm like, dude, you guys got to come on. You're crushing it. You're like on top of your game. So get on here and do an update. So we're going to set that up in the next week or so. Plan on having the team from Beleg on. And I'm just going to say, well, let's start here. Well, we have, there we go. We're blowing it up. Yes, Swifty. Yes, AITX, RMRK. Well, we'll see. You know, those are companies that I've had on. Steve Reinhardt, he's solid. And I mean, look at transparency. I mean, that guy he crushed it this week. I mean, the stock was moving very nicely. But he's an example of a CEO that, you know, is transparent and continually updates his shareholder base. So, yeah, kudos to him. Let's see. Fingers crossed. But yeah, hey guys, smash that like button. Hit that like button and share the video. What a day today. Larry, let's get into this. All right. Let's start with I'm going to start with NUMD. All right. I like this one a lot. Here's the share structure. It's super low float, held at DTC about 20 million. All right, guys, this thing is going to move. We called this one at about 3.5 cents. It's sitting there at 8.5 cents now. Second time it's ran up there. But they have closed their acquisition. Or the merger. So that deal is done. And I mean it. It's absolutely done. And I'll show you right here. All right, because this is what we do. Here's the 8K. All right. So it's a done deal. Now, a lot of these times, you know, you hear like there's a LOI or it's going to happen soon. No, it's done. They did what they had to do upon the closing of the transaction on April 28th, 2024. YSA, Eurospace America, became a wholly owned subsidiary of the company, and the company assumed all liabilities of YSA as the merging entity, including all liabilities arising from or in connection with any contracts assigned by YSA to the company as part of the transaction. I've reached out to the CEO. I plan on having the team on the show, and I'll tell you right now, they're going to be non-dilutive. Remember, I covered this before, and you know, I'm starting to really hone in on those convertible notes. There was one convertible note, and the convertible note was for the company that actually merged in. So that's a very, very good sign. And here we are, changing control. On April 28th, 2024, the company issued William R. Russ Colvin, 1 million shares of Series X preferred stock, giving him a majority voting control. In addition, at closing, the board of directors of the company appointed Mr. Colvin as the company's president, chief executive officer, and director of the company. So, you know, this guy is stacked up with his resume, and this is a real company. They're doing real projects. This is my real estate play of 2024. And, you know, you don't find these gems. And I want to shout out to Barry the Great, because he reached out to me and goes, have you ever looked at NUMD? And I'm glad I have, because you know what? They have a great company that just got rolled in here, YSA. And I'll tell you, let's see, Mr. Colvin, all right, he served from 2005 to 2009 as the president, CEO, and co-founder of Core Realty Holdings, where he oversaw all company operations, including financing, acquisitions, management, asset repositioning, and capital raising efforts for Core investment properties throughout the United States. And during his tenure, they acquired 1.2 billion of commercial and multifamily real estate. This isn't a guy who's just like, oh, I think I'm going to start a real estate company. No, this is it. All right. And here it is. Following the appointment of Mr. Colvin as president and chief executive officer, the company's former president and CEO, William Haid, who I have been in contact with, was appointed to serve as the company's executive chairman of the board. Keith Merrill continues to serve as the company's chief financial officer and director, and Jeffrey Robbins continues to serve as director. So when I'm talking about the real estate gig and what they are potentially doing, there's a lot of money involved in real estate. And if you break it down by sections of real estate, self-storage is the biggest. And so I didn't know that. I didn't know how much money was in self-storage. It's like, oh yeah, self-storage, whatever. I never thought like, oh, I'm going to go out and get a real estate investment play today. That wasn't my goal. This was thrown on my lap by Barry the Great. And I'll tell you, I think this thing's going to take off. One, they have the flow for it. Two, they're non-dilutive. They have a company rolled in that is experienced and knows what they're doing. They're already doing it. They're already building these projects. And they are going to be working hand in hand with major companies for site management. Yes, public storage. Companies like them, public storage. $265 share price. Extra space storage, $141. CubeSmart, $41. These guys aren't doing this to like sit around at 8 cents. This is where you get in my opinion. I'm not telling you to buy. I'm not telling you to sell. Don't buy tomorrow and the stock go down and be like, that son of a bitch. That son of a bitch, that Fireside. He did it again. Listen, I think it's a great investment. It's my real estate play of 2024 and beyond because I think they're going to be around for a while. Russ Colvin, his resume is stacked, and that's the kind of person I want to invest in. So cool that. All right, I'm just looking at the chat here. Buffalo Merch has vape swag. Storage business is beautiful. Jess, I agree with you. I'm completely excited about it. So NUMD, I'm all in on NUMD. I'm very excited about it. Storage is a great investment. And did you guys know? Oh, it's NUMD. Why don't we throw that up there, Rob? But the truth is most of these are privately owned, these storage facilities, but we've seen public storage, we've seen CubeSmart. And so knowing that they're going to be working hand in hand for site management is crucial. And I think the fact that they're able to connect those big names to their stock, which has a stellar share structure, which is sitting at 8 cents, it's a no-brainer for me. So I'm very excited about that. Next, let's talk about DRCR. Let's go through their recent PR. You want to talk about undervalued companies? Listen, a lot of stocks are down now. This hasn't been the most fun time in the OTC. Volume is low. We understand that. There's been a little crypto craze lately. It is what it is. But this is when you buy. And we called the bottom actually here on the show for DRCR. I don't have the chart pulled up in my feed here, but yeah, we called it down in the 3 cents range, and I'm never going to delete that because I wish I would have loaded in there. I mean, look where the stock is now. Went on a nice surge, and it's consolidating above a dime. So let's go through their most recent PR. All right. Swifty Global announces record annual results ahead of National Exchange reverse merger. All right. Swifty Global is pleased to announce the completion and publication of the company's annual return disclosure for 2023, now available on OTC Markets website. All right, so they recorded a revenue of $128 million. Think about that. And they had a net profit of $2.4 million for the year. The company has achieved extraordinary organic growth with minimal debt and now has shareholders' equity of $5.4 million. The 2023 results position Swifty in a very strong financial position from which it can continue to grow and expand exponentially in 2024. Swifty has continued its focus on international growth and expansion by rolling out its software as a service B2B gaming platform, along with securing successful partnerships in Ireland with licenses also pending in additional jurisdictions, including South Africa and Malta. And they did mention South Africa before. So this is absolutely cuckoo because the share price is so cheap and they're bringing in 9 figures. I always said the only downside is the cost of delivery for goods or delivery of services. That's where it gets them on their balance sheet. And I think they're going to work to trim that down. So I think they're going to see the net profit start to increase as they go forward. So hopefully they could get that under control. But that's not my concern right now because they have $128 million in revenue and they're sitting at a dime, for Christ's sake. All right, then let's look on here. And impressive results from 2023 have proved that Swifty, with a solid platform for transitioning to a major national stock exchange. And following today's results, Swifty is pleased to announce that it is in the final stages of discussions and negotiations to enter into a reverse merger with a company listed on a national exchange. And I think it's going to be equity based, just like ILS and all those guys are doing. ILS or SAMO, QIND, all that stuff. That's the route I think. I think they got wise, and I think they figured out a new system. So we're incredibly proud of what we accomplished as Swifty as we publish our 2023 annual disclosure, achieving a record revenues of $128 million. And yes, they are allowed to brag and boast because that's a damn good accomplishment. So kudos to them. Rock and roll. Whoops. Let's talk about ILS next. All right. Or lastly, I should say. This was a big shareholder update, but let's plow through it. The company has now filed its annual report, which includes a restatement of its financials for years 2022 and 23 due to a canceled transaction. We all know about that. Basically, QI is out, so there was a significant decrease in the revenues because of Quality International, which they were trying to renegotiate the tranche payments. And so I sort of look at it as a blessing in disguise. I'm not, I'd rather have them like get an uplist, get a couple clean acquisitions, instead of having to like keep renegotiating those payments, which never came to fruition. But what can you do? That's just that. Let me look at the comments section right here. Oh yeah, Jazz. Yeah, the Swifty market cap is completely undervalued. And oh yeah, by the way, Dirt, it's NUMD. So it says right here, it is noteworthy for an OTC markets listed company that ILIS has been able to accumulate over 62 million in total assets, with net assets of over 32 million in the face of exceptionally challenging market conditions. Notably, the company remains securely on track to uplist both its industrial and emergency response subsidiaries to a senior stock exchange in the short to medium term. All right. And I do. He said it on my channel. Hell of a lot closer than you think. And I'm sticking to I'm gonna trust his words there. And I think they're gonna be successful. This is one of my favorite long-term plays. And I keep loading into it. I keep buying more. You know what? There's been a little bit of a downtrend because of the report that came out. Fine with me. Let it hit 005. I'll buy more. I'm going to probably buy more this week. Not financial advice. Let's go on here. Over 3 years, ILIS has acquired 7 operating businesses, incorporated 2 entities, and attained control of over 2 OTC-listed public entities, which now operate as its subsidiaries. ILIS has incurred significant write-downs and losses during the process of consolidating its subsidiaries and operating businesses. These losses are a direct result of the integration and restructuring of the acquired businesses. Consequently, the net operational costs have increased, and as ILIS strives to drive the growth of its operating businesses and complete planned uplistings. To facilitate this, ILIS has augmented senior level management and advisory resources. So they're it's a clean slate in my opinion, and they're tearing it down just to make sure and they're not tearing nothing down. I'm sort of phrasing that the wrong way. They're cleaning house and they're doing what they have to do to restructure things, and I am absolutely fine with that. Clean it up, get rid of what's not working for you, what's not working for you, and just build upon what is. So let's go on to talk about SAML. All right. In February 2024, SAML acquired 7 emerging response operating businesses from ILIS. Those are the businesses that we all really invested in ILIS in the first place. We talk about Firebug, you talk about Georgia Fire Rescue, like those exciting companies where, we're all jazzed up about it. And so are they. They're not diverting at all. They're just adjusting. And so I think there's going to be an uplist for SAML very soon. We're going to find out how much the shares are worth. There are so many unknowns, but I think that they're getting things done. I mean, I don't know. I mean, nobody knows at the end of the day, but I do think they are going to have an uplist. And I think it's going to be significant for the ILIS stock because all they need to do is one. Once they get one uplisted, once they show that it increased in value and shareholders made out, then I think people are going to be jumping it back in. They're going to be jumping back in like, all right, fine. This wasn't fluff. They actually did it. So it's like a to be continued. So, the strides ILIS took during the first quarter of 2024, as indicated above, were not consolidated and reflected in the company's 2023 annual report. The company is keenly anticipating the submission of its forthcoming quarterly report, which will be accompanied by those of its subsidiaries to depict the positive outcomes. And I like the positive outcomes. Yes, some people say I'm a little biased, and I like the company, and I really want to see them succeed. They've made mistakes along the way, 100%, and they have the timeline issues. Hey, I'm the one that invented ILIS timeline relief, ILIS timeline pills. Mine are gone, by the way. Hope the whole bottle's gone. Yeah, I'm razzing on one of my favorite investments, but that's that. So, we're going to see what happens. I think, for a lot of these companies, we're set to get a lot of news in the coming weeks. And, if there's one shareholder base that is absolutely ready to rock and roll and move to a big board, it's ILIS. but it's going to start with their subsidiaries, and we're going to see where it goes. We're going to see what the plan is and see how it affects ILA shareholders with that dividend, the SAML dividend. And we're going to see, and I've been loading into SAML too. I plan on getting more of that and getting as much as I can. Right now, I have about 250,000 shares. I'd like to get to 500,000. Yeah, you heard me, Arlex. You heard me. He's probably already working on a mill, but that's all right. There's a lot of good things happening. Ticker AHRO. We're looking to get pink current this week. They are sending all their filings to the printer in the next 24 to 48 hours, as they just noted on Twitter. So that's good news. So that thing has massive potential. You want to put something on your radar? AHRO, NUMD, DRCR, IDKFF. That's it. I mean, there's tons of them. You just got to find them and load in before they run. I hate getting in after something runs 200, 300%. I typically don't touch it. I wait for it to settle down. Definitely want it to settle down. I like how DRCR is settling down in this range up here. This is where I would probably make entry. Am I kicking myself in the hiney a little bit because I didn't grab those threes like I called it? And that's a the Jason Wheel. That is funny. Everybody gather around. No, it's I'm just busting your chops, bud. But no, it's true. I'm very excited to see. I want to see some uplifts, and yeah, we want to see results. We want to see it happen. That made me laugh. That's it. You make your investment, you wait for it, or you get out. And yeah, it's okay to complain about it. It's okay to bitch about your investment. Like I said, I'm the one that invented eyeless timeline pills because I knew I was ahead of the game. Had you just listened? No, I'm just kidding. But no, there's a lot of great opportunities out there. Yeah, there's not a huge, massive amounts of volume in the OTC right now, but I think this is when due diligence matters even more. Is finding out like what companies can we invest in. I'm really into these low floats, these real companies that are putting up revenues that have these big projects. Like look at DRCR. You're putting up 128 million. Look at XALL. That's another company that's sitting at 0014. Or let's talk about SFIO, another undervalued company. So when these things are beaten to the ground and you know that they have revenues, you know they have a substantial amount of assets, when you know that they could turn a profit, and revenues is the big one. When you know they're not like printing notes like crazy, those are the companies that you want to load in at this time. This is why I'm trying to make my moves into companies like NUMD, XALL, which I'm not an investor yet, but I'm looking into getting that one. I tried grabbing 10s the other day. Didn't happen. Whatever, but I've learned to be patient. I don't get FOMO as much anymore. If I said I don't get FOMO anymore, I'd be a liar. But no, every now and then you get excited about a stock and you load in. Sipdick comes to mind. If he's watching this, I'm just busting your chops a little bit. I'm just talking about AGBK, bro, just a bit. Oh my gosh. Well, listen, this was a very spirited conversation. I want to thank everybody who watched the show today. Sorry for the technical glitches in the late start and me not knowing how to unmute my mic to start the show, for crying out loud. Special thanks to my guests over at IDKFF, ThreeD Capital, Sheldon and Jackson, Inwentash. Special thanks to Rob. Shout out to pixelworld.tv. Hey, where's Lisa Matthews today? Lisa Matthews is probably working her butt off right now. But special thanks to all you guys. I appreciate you. I look forward to continuing to grow this community. And we'll see you at the next one. Well, by the way, Thursday, 6 p.m., take a seat. I'm going to have Chris Henson on. So you are not going to want to miss this. We have the developer coming on, and I'm just so very excited. So, Lisa Matthews is there. See? And I was having fun at your expense, but I'll give you a call later, Lisa. You guys have a great night. Tune in Thursday, 6 p.m. That's all I got. And remember, there is more that binds us than breaks us. Peace out, guys.